knows that, right? 5:40, so that way the live stream, I had mentioned it. I call this agenda the special board meeting of the Canadeo Board of Trustees. The time is 5:39 and the date is June 10, 2024. I know that we got a call, I believe Dr. G said Mr. Cimental, dad was having surgery and Lucy's dad's birthday. So those two won't be attending, but I believe Cindy's en route. She's running a little late. So with that, I'll ask you to take roll.
Ms. Barnes?
Present.
And like you mentioned, Ms. Borrego will be able to attend for this meeting. Mrs. Mendoza?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Mr. Cimental will also be absent for this meeting. Mrs. Stroud?
Present.
Item number 2, open forum. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard, in accordance with District Policy BED Local. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. For further information on those policies, contact the superintendent's administrative assistant. And Mr. President, we do not have any community members signed up for tonight.
Okay, I'll take this to item 3.
Item number 3, Board of Trustees business. 3A, Spring 2024 Demographic Report. Presenter, Dr. Oscar Rico and Sonda representative.
Good evening, President Rodriguez and Superintendent Galaviz, members of the board. This is a presentation that has been forthcoming for a while to show you the growth of the district and the forecast of where our students are going, coming, growing and losing as well, right? So due to the fact of the bond passage and placement of schools and size of schools, it was imperative that we bring this to you at this time. So without further ado, Zonda will be presenting, so Mr. Rocky will be presenting his findings to you.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Galaviz. I'm going to start with just this title slide. I guess I'll just kind of, I don't want to be rude, I'll just let you know when I'm moving on to the next slide. This is research that we began, early in the, like I say, late winter, if you will, when our team started looking through numbers and trying to reach out to understand the housing market.
Last year?
Sorry?
Last year?
Well, now Bob was here and did a report a couple of years ago, but our research team comes back and looks at that to start this program as well, to start this part as well. One of the first things we look at is just that local economy, just understanding what's going on. It's been very similar. So this chart probably looked exactly the same in your last report. Unemployment rate's been floating right around that 4% number for a long time. Right now the job market's kind of in flux. You'll see unemployment rates that tick up, but then they'll say we're creating more jobs than were expected. But that's really what's keeping the economy going. There's a lot of debate. People talk about smokestacks or chimneys, what comes first. In other words, the jobs or the houses, and it's a very cyclical thing that happens. You create jobs. You get stuff like the Eaton or the Grupo Far, and they create jobs, which then gets folks coming and buying homes, and the more homes to buy, the more people. Then you get service jobs like grocery stores. So it is very cyclical. These two our team just put these in just so I can kind of talk to that a little bit. We've got, oh, sorry. I'm clicking mine. There you go.
I'll let them
Do you want, yeah, thank you. So just, these are just a couple that we picked out. That there's, 600 jobs are gonna get created there at Eaton. Probably more like about 120 or so there at Grupo, but there's always ancillary jobs that follow these. So that's kind of what we're kind of tracking. A lot going on. Understanding the enrollment, though, is what we really got to focus on tonight. And this is a statewide enrollment change. I want you to look at that very last little bar there. It says, I'm sorry, look forward one more. We added, the state added just 12,736 students last year. That's statewide. That includes charters and traditional ISDs. The smallest growth that we've seen in well over 10 years, probably close to 15 years, if we've even been that low. So that was an unexpected movement. We've been seeing some trends with kindergarten enrollment declining in some areas. We've been seeing that trend, but this did surprise a little bit following the bounce back that we had after COVID. If we look at this chart, next slide please, thank you. 22, 23, the chart on the left, when we added 91,000, you see a little more color, you see a lot of light green on there and dark green. You don't see quite as much of that because anything gold, red, yellow means that the school district lost enrollment. So again, we only added 12,736 students statewide. In Region 19, next slide, thanks. We saw declines as well, with the exception of Socorro. The school districts in Region 19 declined by 172 students locally. The region declined by 16,000, almost 16,700 students over 5 years, and 3,000 just last year. Next slide, please. Housing market trends in El Paso. You can see that we're showing 4 years there. So the blue is 21, all the way through the two colors of green there. But 2024, you can see there that what the housing market has done. It's that slide on the right I want you to focus on a little bit. Sales are down. And sales are down everywhere. This isn't a new thing. Average prices, median prices, they continue to tick up. Listings have gone up, and months inventory. So what that means is how long the house is on the market, going from 2.3 to 2.9. That's the challenges that we're seeing everywhere with the higher interest rates. Folks just aren't moving to, and so we're putting less. So there's less pressure because there's folks that are sitting in their house with a 3% interest rate, and they don't want to move somewhere else because they're going to pay 7% to get half the house. So that's definitely what's a shift. We thought that this summer interest rates might drop a little bit, but that hasn't happened, or that doesn't look to be happening now with some of the things we've seen from the feds. Next slide, please. Now I've zoomed in here to, this is strictly, this is based on deed transactions. So what our team does is they pull every home sale, whether it's a new or existing home, and we look at that deed transaction and just look at those counts. So you can see that we peaked in 2020 with almost 1,200 home sales. So that's both new homes and existing homes. And then you can see that things have fallen off in 24. We're sitting at 205. I think that will go up a little bit as we go through the summer. The summer's always a little bit higher. So the last 2 years, right around that 750 number, and about 46%. So almost half of that now is becoming new housing. And I think that number is going to increase. We're going to see more of these new houses. I'm going to show you some of that a little bit later. Price point as well. The average new home was $229,000 just back in 2016. In 2024, 2023, we crossed over 400,000. So a lot of these new homes that are being built are over 400,000. It's an average of the home sale price. So there could be a large, $1 million home could offset $380,000 homes too. So we have to build that into it. But you can see your average existing home staying right around 300,000 there too, that 350,000. So we've definitely seen some accelerated things going on there. Next slide, please. This is a look at where we're tracking development. So this slide here, where you see the green color, is where we know there's active development going on right now. There's home building going on. The large yellow, or the yellow ones, they represent future, where we don't have any activity yet, no homes being built, but you're going to see homes. So 15 actively building subdivisions with 200 homes under construction when our research was complete. CISD said there's 9 future subdivisions with over 6,000 lots. So that's where we're going to see a lot of strong growth as we move forward. You've got groundwork underway on over 1,000 lots. So what that means, when we say groundwork underway, that means they're trying to deliver lots. So a vacant developed lot is basically a lot that's ready to be built on right now. So where you see those red outlines is where the developers are coming in, they're develop those lots, and then they'll sell them off to builders to build homes. So that's what we want to see. We want to see that builder confidence with them developing lots there. New home activity represents about 14% of the new home transactions in the El Paso MSA. So that was just a statement just to say, we've got strong new home activity right here, and this is where we're focusing on with this review. I've zoomed in on a couple of these, just to, maybe almost all of them, just to give you, I'm not going to read every bullet, so don't panic yet, but Cimarron's got 2,273 lots, 42 vacant developed lots. So even though they got all of those lots, of course, they've only got 42 that were ready to be built on right now. But you can see they've got phase 7 and phase 5 are being delivered, so that's where that next round of growth is going to come by. And on these slides, I want to point out something. See where that point, where it says 0.27 yield? You're going to see these yield numbers on most of these slides. That yield is the number of students that we're tracking per home right now in some of those areas. And that's what I use to forecast. So think of a 0.27 as 27 students for every 100 homes. It's actually, that's a pretty low yield. That goes kind of unexpectedly low. I'm going to talk a little more about that. But it also gives me, when I'm building my forecast, that's what I'm building on. So if I see a development that's adding 300 and the yield around that is about 0.27, then I'm adding about 30 students for every 100 homes there. Just as an example. Enchanted Hills, you can see there that right around Enchanted Hills is very, very similar, 0.25. And notice what side of I-10 I'm on right now too when you look at these yields, because that's kind of going to be important later too. And Enchanted Hills, they have 715 homes occupied, so they've got another 1,600 homes that are future. They can develop lots, 50 homes under construction right there. The slide on the left, that was a satellite image just from May. So that satellite image is less than a month old. May 8th, so I guess it's just over a month. Desert Springs, 573 total lots. That's that same thing. 300,000 plus, again, a 0.22 yield. But you can see those houses are building in pretty quick there. They started on phase 7. They're building 20 to 40 homes a year, so they're going to get going on those, and it's going to go pretty quick, I think. There were already 448 occupied, so this is the last section that's being developed there for Desert Springs. Here's a few different ones. The villages at Westside, these are apartments. They're 150 units. Their rezoning is being worked on, so they could also become some office space. They're not doing anything with it yet. But the village at Westside Crossing, Residences del Cielo, that's pretty close. So we've got 140 vacant developed lots. You can see they're building homes already, so and they're delivering those lots. Again, we're staying right in that 0.25 yield. And then now we flipped over to the other side of I-10. You can see there Ironwood, Cantillo Heights. Look at that yield, greater than 0.8. So they're getting almost a student per home in those neighborhoods right around where these are being built. A lot higher yields there. You can see that those homes are going up really fast there at both those locations. And this is where we got Kylie Estates, 182 future homes. The final plat was approved, groundwork's underway, so the developer thinks he'll start building 50 to 80 homes a year as soon as possible. Welcome. Henley Palms is also 39 single-family units, and you've got 48 duplex units that were completed into 2023. And they're about 9% tax credit. We throw that in because typically that will create some higher speed yields. And here's some small ones: Riverview Estates, Green Acres, Casa del Rio. But you can see the yields there around 0.5. So we're getting some much higher yields in this part of the district. And Westview Heights, 40 to 30 homes under construction. They're going to build just through this right now, and so that's why I just showed the whole thing, because you can see those are almost done there. And that yield again is 0.5. So we're going to get easily 25 students from that development. Bespoke Canyon, so this is the big one, 3,000 future lots, projects in early design stages. He anticipates delivery late 26, early 27. So what that means of delivered lots is that's when they'll be ready to start construction. So not home delivery, but lot delivery. So then you're gonna get some, probably be the early, maybe during the 27-28 school years, and then we'll start seeing some students and some, the first homes get complete there at these. Next slide, please. Desert Commons West, these are some apartments that are under construction. You can see again from May 7th, it went vertical in January, so they'll probably be leasing late this year. Your multifamily student yields are not real high. We've only got about 400 students that we're actually geocoding to multifamily. That overall is 0.258, so that's pretty static. And those new apartments likely will yield much lower because a lot of new apartments don't yield as high, just because the product doesn't have as many 2 or 3 bedrooms. Next slide, please. This is a density slide, and this is important. And I'm going to talk about this for just a second. 402 students that reside outside the district. Those are the little purple dots you see on the outside. 6.8% of the population is outside the district. Then you've got about 3,000 students that actually, we just mapped them into ISD. In the El Paso city limits, about 52% of your population. But what I want to talk about for just a quick second is the density over here. And I'm going to talk about this more with projections. But this density, you guys aren't seeing it, on the right-hand side, I-10 there's probably a lot more students there than what we're seeing. That's where I think, when I went and looked at the actual student by grade level, in each of those areas, the 5th grade class was about 50% bigger than the 6th grade class. And we know those ages are there, so we think students are there. And that's going to be important as we discuss the projections a little bit later. TEA transfer report. This comes directly from TEA. So this comes from their website. We can all look at it. 381 students transferring in to Cangatila from Anthony, Clint, El Paso, Socorro, Isleta. Probably a few more from outside of that. But 381 transferring in. An increase of about 40 students. The big number here is 2,314 that are now transferring out. And that was a big jump from that 22, 23, from 1,100 to 17 to almost 1,800 in El Paso. And really, I was looking back at some projections that were done previously, and the district came in under our forecast. And I think a lot of that reason is because of these students that are right now transferring to El Paso. They've gone up since over 800, right at 800 students just in the last two years. You've seen a little bit of jump in a couple other areas, but that El Paso one, the one that kind of caught my eye right away. And I'm going to talk a little more about that as well. Charter schools are important to keep in mind, and the reason I want to stop on this slide is charter schools last year added 18,850 students. Now if you recall, my the third slide I showed that statewide we added 12,000 students. That means if charters added 18,000, then actually traditional school districts decreased by 6,000 students last year. So because charters are included with the traditional ISDs, so we did see decline statewide in all overall traditional ISDs, and that's significant. So let's talk about enrollment forecasting. Last year, the district dropped by about 172 students. It's about a 2.8% decline. Elementary cohorts are still positive. So what I'm saying is, when you see that chart at the bottom where it says 1 point, like the first grade, it says 1.039. That means from kindergarten to first grade, they grew 3.9%. So we want to see those ones. You can see that across the board at K5, you're all positive. Then you get to 6th grade, you see where that drops off, that 0.88, 0.91. We've seen these declining yields at 6th grade, and then you'll see a little bump at 7th grade, but by then the grade level's already small. So we're losing those kids kind of when they get to secondary, and that's kind of what I began to look at and trying to understand and wrap my arms around that in your middle school cohort, 0.96 while we're adding homes. You'll also see a little net decline, because if you look at your 12th grade class of 448 students, and then you have your kindergarten class of 351 students, 450 leave, and if only 350 come in, you lose 100 students just from that attrition. So even though you're getting new housing, you're seeing a slight drop there. So we've forecasted for next year based on the trends that we're seeing right now. So I call this kind of a conservative. These are based on the transfer patterns we're seeing now and the yields we're seeing right now. I think you could add about 63 students next year. Okay, going forward by 28, 29, I think things could pick up a little bit because you're gonna see that, the large development that's gonna pick up, just lost the name of it, but, that we were looking at over 3,000 lots they'll be well into building homes by then. So I think, within 10, you're gonna be sitting right around that, 63 to 6,400 in 2028 and right at 7,300 in 10 years. I also have this by campus. You can see here that I think Reza Elementary is the only one that's over capacity. That's what that yellow highlight means, that they've gone over capacity. Pantilo Elementary and the high school both go over capacity in 8 years. I don't lay too much stock. The farther we get away from today, the next 3 to 5 years is really what we should focus on. Things can get a lot of things can happen in 10 years. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what we saw following the research. When I began to see the yield drops on the right side of I-10 versus the left side on those maps, how different those were, and then we started talking about new campuses being built on that right side, I wanted to do a forecast that would show you what the opportunity will be. It's kind of like build it, they will come. But it feels like when you get some campuses on that side, I think you're going to get a lot of these students back. I think they're simply making that decision. They're going to see a shining nickel that they can be on that side of the district. So this is a forecast. You can see in year 4, we start adding 500 students a year. That's a combination of all the new housing. So if we give the students back that have transferred and we start seeing our yields double, they go from 0.25 to 0.5, which is really, those kids are out there. It's just getting those to come to CISD. Then I can see the potential to be at 7,500 students in 5 years and really pushing 10,000 in 10 years. It's just a matter of capturing the students that are there and holding on to them. I wanted to do that alternative. Again, this is where some opportunities lie, I believe. It does, you will see some increases there, but really it doesn't change your opportunities there. You've got some, your middle school, but we're looking at a middle school, Golden Middle Schools, I think they'll be okay there. The elementary's starting to get tight as well, but again, we're gonna, I think that will be a little bit bigger too, right, when that gets built up. Yeah. So I just want to add that because I think sometimes when you start looking at the number of homes that I showed you that are coming, and then you look at my forecast and you think, that doesn't always jive. But I really think it's just going to be a matter of building those yields back up. So with that, new home sales in Cantillo account for about 46% of the total district, 15 actively building subdivisions. You got over 6,600 lots that are in planning stages. 1,000 lots are being delivered. So I think again, this conservative forecast has you right around 6,300 in 5 years and 7,300 in 10 years. Thank you for keeping up with me and putting up with me. I'm happy to take questions, discuss.
I just see in the last graphic in 2023, 2024, we lost enrollment, right? Compared with the 2023. Is that right?
Yeah, you declined in enrollment, yes ma'am.
And reasons are several, right?
Sorry?
Reasons?
Well, the reason we lost, last year you lost 172 students, I think was because of the students that left. Your
More
increase.
than 172 students, we lost much more.
Well, but the new housing brings in students as well, so it's a blend of when you're looking at overall enrollment, you're losing students, you're gaining students, you're adding homes that are going to bring new students in, and then you're also, so it's really a blend of all of that. So.
And also in page number 28, we see that decrease from 2023, 2024, minus 2.8%. Is that the same one that we're talking about, or there's another reason?
No, that's the same, yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's the same, because I start with the same base on this.
Now, you talk about the 5 years enrollment, chances are that we could attract 7,300 students, right?
7,500 by then.
Is because of the new housing. Now, from all the developings that you're showing to us here, which one has the most increase, the most potential? And which ones do you think is going to be with more, families or more kids?
Well, I think, let me go back to this slide. I'm sorry, let me go back to slide 10. Go back to slide 10. I think your east side, I mean, that east side there where you see the big yellow, that's gonna be over 3,000 lots. That's gonna be, you know, that's significant. And then both those large developments below that with the red outlines, they are
Yes.
developing lots there right now. And that's where you're gonna see growth. And not only are you gonna see strong housing growth, but I think you're gonna see increased yields as well. Instead of having 25 students for every 100, I think you can get 50 students for every 100.
So those are potentially, they're gonna bring us more kids from.
I think they will.
And my question is, this is projected from now to a future, how many years?
The projection could go out 10 years.
10 years, so that's when we're gonna have more increasing of students
I think-
from now to 10 years? But what about from now to 3 years?
In 3 years? Yeah, see, I think what's gonna happen, I think it could be pretty, it might be slow, but I think as soon as you get a campus built over there,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna start popping. I think you're gonna get students back that are transferring out, and you're gonna yield more students from the new homes.
Because everything is gonna be more developed, or because we're going
Both.
to attract kids
You're
from
gonna have a-
other school districts?
You're gonna attract students that are currently leaving to go to another school district, they're gonna come back. And then students that are, in families that are living in those new homes,
Mhm.
where without that campus there, they might send a student away, they're gonna decide to stay. So you're gonna see it twice, I think. You're gonna see a higher yield when the new homes come, and you're gonna get students that come back.
And you are.
That's what that second forecast talks about.
That's the second forecast.
Yeah.
So you are projecting 27 students per every 100 homes.
That's currently what we're doing. I think it could get closer to 50 students for every
Oh,
100
really?
homes.
That's good
Once-
news.
I think we can get to 0.5. I mean, there's areas, most of your district on the left side is already doing 0.5 to 0.8. You get high yields, and
Yeah.
that's consistently around El Paso. I've worked at Socorro and Clinton. I've seen those same kind of
Seen
yields.
that.
They
Oh,
can
you're
happen.
local, you're from here, from
No,
El
but
Paso?
we just have been blessed to be able to work with
Oh,
several districts here.
My last question is, if we're going to slide number 21 or 19, you said is the big one, the one with the green, that one. You went so fast in that, and can you please help me to understand that one better?
Yeah, this is Obispo Canyon, so they've got about 3,000 future lots planned. That's what they're trying to do there, so it's they're still designing it, so it could change that, it could end up at 2,800, it could end up at 3,300. A lot of times when they get going on it, they'll realize that the people aren't buying a 60-foot lot, they're not putting a 40, they'll change the lot sizes, so it could be more. But they anticipate the first delivery of lots in 2026, so that's 2 years away. They're gonna deliver the lots, so it's gonna get firmed up over the next couple of years. Basically, when you start seeing dirt moving, you've got about 18 months before you'll see the first student.
Oh, okay, I
You know,
know.
About, you're not gonna see a ton at that point, but you're gonna start seeing it. So I think that if they deliver lots in late 2026, that means they can start home building right away in 6 months. So by that summer of 27, this 27, 28 school year, they could be building homes, and maybe the real significant stuff might be 28, 29. But if there's camps built by then, that could be significant.
Yeah, so then we're going to increase the enrollment, I guess, chances are, soon.
Yeah, that's where I'm counting on it.
That's good, thank you so much, appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. Ms. Mendoza.
I'd like to tell you that this is so comprehensive. It's wonderful. And I love the feeling that you said, build it and they will come. That's what we're banking on.
Yeah.
We are banking on that. On page 28, total growth, we see the biggest growth in 28, 29. Do you attribute that to all of the new homes coming in by that time, or?
They won't all come in at once, but because of that, the one that we were just talking about with 3,000 lots, they're not gonna be delivering those until 26, 27, so that's when I start seeing, some pretty good numbers coming in. And that's also when the new campuses hopefully will be built by then, so you're gonna see some kids coming back. So I think those first couple of years there, once those new campuses are built, are gonna be I think you'll see a rebound there.
We've always been able to hold on to big numbers in the elementary grades, and I'm hoping to be able to, once our campuses are built, to keep them through high school.
Okay.
On Borderland Road, there's some beautiful houses, but they're building townhomes up on Borderland right near Damian. Do you include these in your study, or is it just homes that are?
Our team tries to locate all that. I'm on slide 17. Okay.
Dr. Rico, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, the ones that are being built by Winton, right?
Yes.
Do you get this more from the city plan, sorry?
No.
Do you get the data from the city plan commission or a mixture of?
Our research analyst she's asked to reach out to the city, so she'll get from the city, or she'll talk to the developers themselves or the builders themselves as well. So we try to reach out to as many sources. We try to pick up the townhome and apartment product, that's kind of that infill product that's starting to happen quite a bit more. Not gonna yield as many students as your single family homes, but we're certainly trying to keep up with it.
Sorry.
No problem. That answers my question.
Thank you.
Ms. Barnes?
So I saw in, most of the communities, we have an estimated yield, but in some of those, we did not have an estimated yield. Is that because those areas have really not been developed yet, and so we don't have anything to go off of?
Yeah, and then that density map with all the purple dots, so I have it. I just wanted to put some general yields on there to give you guys some ideas. We have yields for just about every area, so we can look at it. I was just trying to kind of pick out some areas that had defined boundaries, so I could pick, because what I do is I select the students and all the homes in there. So if I can get a defined boundary, I can just make the map, do a quick map.
Just one more question. If, for example, we're talking about everything, it's gotta be residential, so we're not talking about any commercial lots, nothing is not included. You already just focus
We
on the
focus on the
residentials and how many kids we're gonna have per school district.
Yes.
But chances are in those that you are showing to us, that they're going to put any commercial ones, or just residentials,
Well-
or we're never gonna have any more, commercial ones?
I'm sure there'll be commercial. I mean, like I said, that smokestack, the new housing is gonna generate other things. And you saw, there was one slide where our team mentioned that they could, I think it was slide,
Because I was trying to look
16.
for something here, and
yeah, we don't traditionally
and
go out and
16,
look
this
for.
one, exactly, that's the
Yeah.
one that I have.
Or, yeah, slide 16 is maybe that's one.
The Village of Riverside Crossing,
yeah,
right?
That's the one that could go either way, but that's because they were looking for, residential there and they came across it, but they weren't intentionally trying to find commercial.
Exactly, was my question. This says 140 vacant developments, 48 homes, but then are we going to have something, maybe commercial? Could be. Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I guess for me, as we see there's some shifting going on with the original projected data or the previous that we've seen to now. And my biggest thing is we gotta listen to what the data tells us. I hopefully will expect to hear your professional opinion when it comes to that, because my biggest concern is, I wouldn't want to build a school and it's already needing toilets. And the first, set of, even when you open it, right, like there's been districts that have, so that's one of the concerns. And the other that I wanna see is what would the build out look like? I know it's gonna shift like it has now, but what would that build out look for our district, with the land mass our size? And what the data is telling in regards to, as we know, we're getting higher, more expensive homes, which that tells, those are more likely middle school. It's not a starter home. There is some other developments coming in where they're looking at, some starter homes, but all that's what we hired you all for, so you could tell us. So I just want to see the build out in the future, and then just listening to see what the data tells us, because I wouldn't want to build a school and then have portables to have to build with it. So
Right. That came up when Dr. Rico and I were talking to, and that's exactly why I built that second forecast. Because I think right now, if we had to plan, that conservative one, the first one that you see, that's based on what you're seeing right now. And that's probably not gonna change for a year or two. I think it's gonna take those new campuses before you see it, but I think when that new campus opens, it's gonna have to be, you know, upsized to handle that forecast that's showing that second quarter.
So, and
If it's not there when it opens, it's gonna get there, so I think that's why I'm going to slide, real quick, 29, see there. So, I think, that, you know, the numbers that you see there and the growth that you see happening there, you know, with, Alvarez Middle School being, you know, 1,300 students, I mean, I think that's what we have to be ready for. Now, you have, you know, the middle school much smaller, so some of this can be taken care of with boundaries too. You know, so I think if you have a 1,200 student, you can even see, you're looking at 2,300, when you get out to 23, 24. I probably think you want to focus on that 6-year window probably. But
what are our surrounding middle schools? That's probably, the Brown is one, and Don Juan have the Haskins, which is more of a K-8, but then you have
go in other districts.
NATO is,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
well, just the neighboring, because that's our main, in regards competitors when it comes to attracting those students. Maybe somebody on the northeast, Parkland Middle or something. But that's something to look at. I just wanna know, and hopefully you could come back with an update, like, are we gonna need 2 elementary schools on this side, 1 middle school on this side, 3 middle schools? I mean, what does that look like on building out in the current, as we know it's gonna shift, but that's something hopefully, in the near future you can come back, because it's gonna be critical on how we develop the district and right size it the way it is. Knowing, as you say, there's private, there's an article on private vouchers, and that's probably gonna be passing in the legislature.
That
then
has
you
to
also
sort it
have-
all up, right? That does change things. The vouchers are definitely gonna impact things and you know, like, if you look at strict numbers, you know, you're, on that slide 29, your capacity of those campuses is 4,400 of all your elementary campuses. And if you look out, you don't really go over 4,400 until 8 or 9 years out. And so in theory, someone could rationalize that, well, you don't need a school, you just need to redo boundaries. But schools are never where you need them. They are, you know, where you have capacity is not where you need capacity. So I think having those campuses on the east side is going to be really important. I do think you're probably going to need over 2 over there, eventually. And that middle school move over there, I think is imperative to get the transfer students back.
The other thing, just thinking, I mean, we would wanna, one is opening in schools. It might be a short stint, right? We open a school and we need, portables, but in 10, 20 years, those kids, you know, so it all, the way that model comes about. So, is there any other questions?
I just do have one on page, graphic number 11, this one here.
Cimarron?
Yeah, that's one coming to ISD housing market analysis, that one. We see in here that, new homes compared to the existing homes. My question is, the sale of new homes decreased?
But are you guys talking about
The
the
sale
boundaries?
of new homes decreased due to what, high interest?
Yes, they started bringing down some of those, yes, some of those sale prices dropped. They might not have intended for that to happen, but that's what happened when they sold.
When-
That's based on sales price.
And comparing to the existing home increase, the sale, what is selling the best? The ones that are existing already, or the new building homes?
I think it's a price point thing. I do think that the existing inventory does pretty well. It's just there's not, you know, that market's starting to dry up a little bit because people aren't, you gotta get people to move in order to have their home opened up, and with the interest rates being so high.
Compare the sales, is the ones that are already built up is selling more faster than the ones that are going to be built
and
new?
some of the new home builders can buy down those, can help someone buy down their interest rates. So they can help them to some extent get in that house as well. So again, it's gonna be price point. I think in some areas, that lower price point, if you know, those ones where they're building that $200,000 home, you know, that's got more affordable at 7% than affordable.
That's having in a new one one and the other one, the existing or used one is gonna be less than 7 maybe?
No, the
Who knows?
interest rate's
It
gonna be the
depends,
same.
right?
They're just not gonna.
It depends the interest rate, how it is that time. So comparing then, in other words, it's selling more the existing homes than the new ones, or?
Likely, you know, from an affordability perspective, that might be happening.
All right, thank you.
Okay, with that, we don't need an action on this, right?
No, but I can answer your question about the student density. So Ornado's at about 1,400 students, Parkland's about 1,200. The rest of the neighboring ones are hovering around 800. The population, the middle school students at Haskins is about 800, Brown is about 800, and Nolan Bridgerton, which would be the next in proximity, is about 800.
Because those are,
If I may, I have a question following up on that. So all of those, I'm assuming they're having the same enrollment issues with declining enrollment that we are here, correct?
Just from hearing the news, Ms. Barnes, yeah, I think Parkland was losing some students. The problem with that particular area that Mr. Ruiz was talking about with Parkland Elementary, it's the only place in the northeast for East Leda, so that's why the density hasn't been affected.
Okay.
There's a lot of new homes being built in that area, so I think if you look at circumstances, you probably look at Parkland Middle School in the same lens, because all the new homes are being developed there.
I just drew Parkland because, I mean, that's usually a team who we play there. Where would be a middle school? I mean, we used to play Ross back in the day. I don't even think it's around.
Yeah, so I guess for UIL purposes, we play schools in East Montana area, in the Clinton area.
But I'm talking about neighboring schools, right? Not necessarily the UIL part, but more of the size.
So you probably look anywhere from, so the three, right, what used to be Lincoln, which is now Haskins, that's around 800, just middle school. There's 1,600 total, but 800 are just middle school. Brown is about 800, and then Ornado is about 1,450, but they're at capacity, and they were built to hold that capacity. Weeks, I can get you weeks.
Yeah, Woods is probably. And we could look at that in the future. I think y'all are gonna update us and,
Ms. Rodriguez, I think you brought up a good point in regard to things that are happening in the state legislature that I do think we need to plan accordingly with that. I know we did demographic study, and I apologize, I'm not sure if that was done by Zonder or someone else. The slides look very familiar, but I don't know if it was the same company. But, was that back in 2020, I think? Yes. 2021. And I know we were looking, I remember sitting in the seats looking at it, but we were looking at the same type of growth then. And that didn't come to fruition. So I know that we don't have schools located in, certain areas that might draw in that enrollment, but I do think that it's really important that we, as administration and the board, be considering how our enrollment is actually going, when those schools start to be built and things of that sort, so that we can plan accordingly and we don't put ourselves in a tough spot where we're building schools that we can't fill and then we can't afford them. So, something that we should be planning ahead and I guess looking at carefully as we move forward.
Yeah, you guys are in kind of an interesting spot because you don't want to, right now, because it's not going to happen for a couple, I don't know, it's going to take a while, and then it's going to be here.
Right.
So I think I really think you got to plan for it to be here now, because, there's all these things that go into design, you build, it takes 3 years to build a school, right? So,
the consensus of the board has been a fast track.
and I think that's
Special.
I think you're going to get it because the housing's going to come, and then, and by then,
Well, we'll fast track. I mean, this one passed, we need to fast track it, and then we could evaluate there. If we fill it up, then that's the decision. But that's why I want to see the build out, and then we could go back because I think not just for budget purposes, we need to start looking at 3-year demographics out, so that way we could analyze that as well. So
I think
that's probably something we should be looking at.
that's second, that's right, that's right.
Yes, and I do want to clarify that. That's what I mean. I think the fast track for what we promised the community and everything for the schools that we said we were going to do with the bond, you were talking about additional from there on out. I think at that point, we can play it safe for a little while, see if we fill those schools, if it looks like we're filling them, then accordingly from there.
Yeah, but I think depending if we're fast tracking it and it's another words in 3, and that's why I don't want to open up a school and then, oops, we're having to put portables. So I think relying on the current data and continue not just waiting 2-3 years out, that we'll probably have to do this more consistently.
We can oftentimes, we'll do the annual.
So maybe that's why, Mr. Shid, that's why I was asking you, which area do you think is gonna build it first, right? Where are we gonna have more plots, more houses? Which one is gonna give us more product, more kids? So we could plant in a very, strategically according with the results then.
Sometimes some developments have hiccups, and so.
Yeah,
That's true.
and we don't know exactly, maybe are they really gonna do it, did they promise to do it,
Things can
is
happen.
it true, and then we're gonna plant it there, guess what, no, it's gonna wait 3, 4, 5 more years.
Next summer, this interest rates drop to 4%, watch it go.
All right, if I, maybe go.
Yeah.
This would be more so for Dr. Rico. I know that when we were looking at our committee meetings for the bond, we were looking at projected enrollment. Does that projected enrollment that we were looking at line up with what he presented today, or were there a lot of differences in there?
There was some differences, right? And I think when we were going to the committee with school placement, size,
Right.
demographics, we were utilizing data that we had from the previous one.
Okay,
So like Rocky was saying, it's really in our best interest to have a yearly update. So we were working with numbers from before, right? Simply because we didn't have the resources to spend to get everything in order. Now that we have to know where your students are coming from because of the school build out, that's when we secured these services. For a lot of the bond planning, whether it was land, school size, demographics, we were relying on data that we had in-house. So it's always best to have the experts provide us.
absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Going back to that, I think just talking to Dr. Galvez, I think, and we could probably look at our accounts, but I think this is important for us to probably sign up on a 3-year. And is this the best time to actually, once school's over, or is it when school's starting? Or is this?
The fall is when we do most of our studies, because once your enrollment is in place, for snapshot date, because most of our enrollment projections are based snapshot to snapshot. So we do the majority of our work in the fall, but if you're not having to, a lot of times that's because someone's trying to open a school with them. So as long as, you just want to wait till the school year started for sure. We do it anytime throughout that year.
So maybe January, February next year.
Yeah, that's good. And I guess one final is, when we talk about all these things happening, I guess my advice would be, don't let the enrollment this year, or even, see that next year, scare you away from, some of these increased sizes that we're talking about, because I think you're gonna get those students back. That's a really strange anomaly that number jumped in El Paso, and from here to El Paso, I think that big jump can become, I think you can bring those back, and then those new houses are gonna add too. We'll talk. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'll take this to the next item, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Item 3B, presentation from Presidio regarding impact of demographic reports and options for school sites and design.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. That helps me look at the slides at the same time. Thank you, Dr. Rico.
So, real quick, Dr. Galvez had told me about the report, if it was fresh, so I said it's probably best that we look at it, and then to have an update conversation, as well as, we also asked for the conversation with our CPRs.
Thank you.
And what I want to do is, I know since it was a short notice, next, I want to establish probably three open meetings, so that way make sure there's nobody having a vacation or anything.
Oh, okay.
That way we could have it scheduled for July.
Good evening, Board President Rodriguez, Dr. Galvez, members of the board. Again, I'm here back, Madeline Sarah with Presidio. Can you hear me okay now? Okay. I'm here to, on behalf of Presidio team, to go over the impact of the demographic report that we just heard from Zunda consultant. So I would like to start with a quick highlight to the overall projects included in Proposition A by drawing your attention to the table on the right, on on the right side of this slide. So as you can see, we reported the 10 schools included in Proposition A, starting with Canutillo High School all the way down to Reyes Elementary School. We've included also the overall budget allocated and approved by the board and the community for these schools. And then the last column represents the current capacity as reported by the consultant for the 23-24 year. It's worth mentioning that the land acquisition budget is included in the overall budgets for these schools to be relocated. I would also like to highlight the following from the report that you just saw. So in the 10 years, and the reason why I highlight the 10 years and 5 years projections, it is very important to track the short-term plan and the long-term plan for the district. And short-term plan meaning once the construction is done, how the district would look like, and then the 10-year projections to reflect what your next bond would look like. So as per the report, the 10 years projections on a conservative side reported as 7,243 students. And then of course, Mr. Rocky reported this could potentially be up to 10,000 students coming back to the district. I'm sure we'll probably meet in between both numbers somehow. Also, I would like to highlight that the increase projected on the conservative side as well would be 900 students. It is very critical to attract new students, and this is the goal of Canutillo ISD, which translate to improving facilities, including new construction. Those would be strategies to attract more students.
Okay.
So all the data and all the analysis show that by having new construction to support Canutillo Middle School, Aldarte, and Davenport Elementary, all those new campuses would result in an increase in your enrollment. Moving on to the next slide. So on this slide, the map represents the attendance zone for each of the Canutillo ISD schools. I would like to also go over the Canutillo portfolio and the pyramid structure that you currently have. As you can see, Garcia, Childress, and Damian Elementary Schools, they have Canutillo Middle School as their feeder pattern, while Davenport, Reyes, and Canutillo Elementary Schools have Aldarte Middle School as their feeder pattern. Both Aldarte Middle School and Canutillo Middle Schools feeds to Canutillo High School as the head of the pyramid at Canutillo ISD. And the demographic report still support these patterns and still make a solid existence of your pyramid structure that you currently have. And again, some of the highlights when we met with Mr. Rocky, to note, 381 transfers were reported in the year 23-24. Those are reported transfers in student coming back to the district. 2,314 transfers out. However, again, the highlight in a 5-year projection, the report projects those numbers to decrease to a little bit over 1,000. So the demographic report identified the potential growth around the Upper Valley and the Enchanted Hills area. With considering the feeder pattern, the student capacity, the student density, and based on the market values reported by the district acquisition consultant CDRE, the preliminary proposed locations for the new schools to be constructed would be within the purple circle, or circles per se, for both Aldarte Middle School feeder pattern, and then on the pink circle for Canutillo Middle School feeder pattern. That is considering that Davenport Elementary School would be also located and considered in the purple area to the right of I-10. Our next steps, and we have a lot of steps to consider. Our main focus on the next agenda we have, we're gonna dig into the schedules to make sure that we present a solid schedule to the board as to when we're gonna procure the third-party vendors, have the architects on board, have the construction managers on board, start the design, how long for the design is going to be, how we're gonna package all your schools and projects, and then how long it's gonna take for the construction to end this project or program successfully. The other very important item that our team would be working on is setting up those budgets. And again, I refer back to my previous meeting. The overall budget number is not your number that we're gonna be working on. We're gonna break it down to as many details as we need to get everything and all the projections in line. Like I said, land acquisition, paying the architects, paying the contractors, making sure that we have all the means and methods to pay all these vendors to have a successful project. So that would be our next step. Growth is one of the important factors, like we heard from Mr. Rafi today, as well as we met with CBRE to figure out the best location of your new schools, how that is going to serve and conflict and reflect on your decisions to serve the community as promised. So that would be considered as a priority to Presidio. And then finally, of course, operation. Our next steps will be seeing all these team members here, the boots on ground. All the members will be hired to put together the contract documents and come back to the board to approve all your changes, or if any, to any policies or procedures that we need to get things going. That's all what I got for today.
So I was sitting here before the meeting, crunching numbers, comparing basically what was presented to our bond committee to what's on here, and I just have a couple of questions. I'm seeing that basically everything lines up except for Canacview Elementary. We're allotting an overall budget of $16.5 million, when my understanding during the bond committees, we were only looking at 9.6 for the deferred maintenance and the 1 million for their extra whatever they want. So I'm wondering about the price difference there.
Can we go back to the first slide?
Sure, so that number, Ms. Barnes, is going to be inclusive of the roof, the HVAC, and the deferred maintenance. We didn't add up the numbers for this one here, so I can go up and add them up, but yeah, all those numbers should be inclusive of those three projects.
Okay, yeah, because what I added up was, so originally we were told that Canacview Elementary School for the roofing was 1.85, for the HVAC was 6.8, and then my understanding is each campus is also getting $1 million in whatever they chose to use it for. So that only adds up to about 9.6.
Correct, so you had, let me see, the elementary, 6.8 for the HVAC and 1.5.
1.9, yeah, approximately.
No, you're right.
So I'm just wondering the difference there, I mean, because we're talking almost double, not quite. And then the same kind of for Garcia Elementary. I know we had talked about 1.5 for their roofing, and they were not on the list for HVAC.
Oh, I think I know what the difference is. The safety and security.
I'm sorry?
Safety and security, not sorry, I can't.
No, that's okay.
Safety and security was also a part for each of those schools.
Okay.
Let me see. I don't have the safety and
We
security.
didn't receive a cost breakdown for that, so that would make sense. I would assume that would be a lot then to Canacview Elementary if that's the difference. No?
I would think so, because I think it's 8.3 total.
Yes, that's my understanding as well, because again, we said for Garcia Elementary, we would be looking at 2.5, but we're budgeting here about 7. So,
Go back and check the numbers with our consultant, make sure that.
This came straight from the district website, so I'll make sure that we have all this reported to you next time.
thank you, I appreciate that.
And update them if there's any changes to update it when you.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. We're going to wrap it. You already explained us what is the projected student enrollment in the long period of time. And what is the short-term plan?
The short-term plan for construction?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what the bond is going to consist. we're gonna build 3 schools as we promised to the community. This would be a short-term plan. Time, that's what we're gonna be working on under the schedule bullet on that last slide.
Ms. Trout, are you asking what can we do in the short term, or you're
Yes,
asking?
in the short term, that's why, but then she says about the construction of 3 schools. I just wanted to know that part of the enrollment as well. What do you think? I know that it will depend.
Are you looking at what we can do now until
Yes,
the campuses
exactly.
begin, or, okay.
Yes.
So currently, the plan, as we understood, that the middle school, the new middle school will host 1,000 kids, and the new elementary school would be designed to host 800 kids.
800. So we're talking about 1,800 so far.
1,000 for middle school, for new middle school, and then 800 for new elementary.
Is that what you wanted, or are you asking like stuff that we could do in the meantime, which would be HVAC stuff? that we-
HVAC
Oh,
as
the
well,
packages,
everything.
the
Yes,
plan-
deferred maintenance, that's the word, deferred maintenance.
Thank you. So we do have a preliminary plan to package all these projects together.
Yes.
And how many projects, which projects? We have to run more analysis, and once we have a definitive plan and option, we'll bring it back for your attention.
Oh,
And they'll be able to update that at the next board meeting.
okay, the next, yeah, I would like to know what it's exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
My next question was about, really it's not for you again, I apologize. I know we're looking at an increase of 900 students according to the demographic report. Where are we looking at enrollment-wise registration for next year? I'm not sure actually who that question belongs to, but enrollment-wise, are we on track? Are we behind? 45?
So we're about 50% registered, which is, it sounds terrible, like a number, like, oh,
Is that where we're at now? Where we were at last year?
I think we're on track to gain students, very much close to the numbers that Rocky was saying. We don't know for sure until the new students come into the area, but the retention is pretty much on task, on target, which we've had before.
Okay.
So it looks adding 40 to 60 students, which is what Rocky was putting in his projections. We won't know until, matter of fact, we just finished with staffing, right? Because there's some classes that look smaller or larger, but we really can't balance until we see, I forget what it was, whatever we call it, the light in their eyes.
Lights in their eyes, she always says.
Yeah. So until we see them, we really don't know, but as of right now, we're on track with the registrations we got, and about 50% of the districts already registered.
And that's how we usually are about this time of the summer. Okay, perfect.
We'll probably have about 10% left for Steve School, so they registered for 6 schools.
Yes, and I know how that goes. I remember being a teacher trying to bargain with the kids to get their parents to register. So I totally understand that. My next question is actually for you. So on the student density, thank you, Dr. Rico. On the student density, I'm seeing where the 2 circles are basically, solid circles are coming together. Thank you, Adrian. Right there. I'm seeing 2 blue stars here. What do those stars represent? In the middle of that Venn diagram, for lack of a better term.
These are the existing locations of your schools.
Of the schools, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no other questions, and I'll take us to the next item.
Thank you so much.
Item 3C, discussion and possible action to engage and approve construction manager at risk for central office remodel and consider guaranteed maximum price limitations. Presenter Dr. Oscar Rico.
Okay, so members of the board and Superintendent Navarez, so it hasn't been a secret to the community or to you all that TxDOT is in plans to acquire a portion of our property. Now that portion happens to be what is directly in front of this boardroom. So obviously we had to come up with different solutions. Being the financial times that we live in, we wanted to make sure that we maximize the funds coming in to counteract any deficits or any extended costs that we have had throughout this budgeting year. So with that said, we decided to try this procurement method, which was a recommendation from our in-house architects from that RFQ that you approved for M&K. This 2-step approach was one that we haven't really done in the past, and then the reason for that is we provided what the industry calls a guaranteed maximum price. Now, that price is a forecast, so just like with the bond projects that I was describing earlier, right? That to our best knowledge, we said this was the price. To our best knowledge, we said this was the student demographic. So for us, on this particular project, we wanted to provide what our architect was saying was going to be the construction cost. Now, that's public information and public knowledge because it was on the RFQ. That guaranteed maximum price was $875,000. Now, $875,000 includes the cost to cut that part of the single office that needs to be given to TxDOT, curing that wall, repositioning the main entrance, as well as TxDOT will then flip some of that bill of those $875,000 to move displaced employees. So, as an example, Dr. Galaviz is going to be displaced from his office. We have to create another location for him here. The cost, which is inclusive of those $875,000, will potentially be covered by TxDOT. So, with that said, we bring to you the recommendation. Is that me? Yeah. We bring to you the recommendation of the committee. Now, this committee was selected in accordance to CBA regulations. I know I was out on vacation last time, but you guys were asking us for the committee membership. This is also not a secret membership. It's a regulation that is public to our community. So for those listening at home, the ones here, and for y'all, it's also CV as in Victor, a regulation. So that regulation is quite old, right? But we still follow that in accordance to it. And we consulted with legal as well to follow that and policy CV.
It's not a policy, it's a regulation.
It's a regulation, correct. And then the policy itself is CV, local and legal.
CV local, but well, we need to update it or?
We didn't see the need at the time when we were looking at it, but I mean that it might change. But everything is always changeable, right? But for us, you see these score sheets in front of you. We bring to you the recommendation to enter into the step 2 of this process, which is a negotiation process with Baines Construction. And just like listed on your executive summary, we can get to come to a guaranteed price, which was there, of $875,000 or in that vicinity. Then we will bring you to the next board meeting recommendation on the price. If not, we are also asking that we notify you that we would cease negotiations with that company and then go on to number 2. When that doesn't happen, go on to number 3 and so on and so forth.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make the motion.
I do have a question.
Can I make my motion first and then you can ask all the questions? I would like to move to engage an approved construction manager at risk for central office remodel and consider maximum price limitations to Baines Construction Company.
I'll second.
I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. There is some questions. So
Yes, I do have.
I'll let Ms. Trout go first, and I believe Dr. Galaviz wanted to clarify something.
Okay, I just have just questions. Is the amount $875,000 will be a set rate or it will suffer a change?
It's still subject to change, right? So that's what we told the respondents to the RFQ, that was what we were figuring to be our guaranteed maximum price, but that was just a figure that we gave to them. We still have to enter negotiations.
We still have. Where is the money going to come from?
That is going to be from the proceeds of the purchase of this building from the Texas Department of Transportation.
Okay. Now, the committee. Who is the committee?
As stated in CBA regulation, it has.
Just let me correct you on that. It's not it's a regulation that we looked at along with our council. So the recommendation from our council on this committee, it was me, Dr. Rico, Ms. Foley, 2 members of MNK, our architecture firm.
Okay.
So again, we look at all regulations to see if they need adjusting, but for this special case, we had our legal counsel making sure that we're abiding by laws.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate that. I just wanted to. I think that's all my questions.
Did you have any questions?
Yes, I actually wanted just some clarification more so for the public, because I did have to ask Dr. Galaviz about this. So the last, point that they're graded on, for lack of a better term, on the rubric is the affirmative action or hub qualification. I did see that Baines scored lower than, A&O general contractor in that one category alone, so I just wanted to clarify what that category was, what it consists of, and why they scored lower, just so that we're clear.
Sure, and you see this here, so she can correct me if I misspeak, but that's a designation that a business can obtain, right? So if they are minorities or underutilized, owned businesses, so historically underutilized minorities owned businesses or operated, they get full points, right? So, if it shows under a lower score, it's because they haven't met that regulation or they haven't met that threshold. For this particular one, the recommendation of our architect, we put that in the RFQ, but I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, just, we did provide you a copy of the invitation that went out. And so that information is part of what they had to respond or include in their, proposal packet or their statement of qualification. So upon reviewing their statement of qualification, that information that they provided regarding the hub, was the reason that they scored lower.
I guess the
depending on
question
what
is,
the-
to see that what is hub?
What is
What is hub?
Historically utilized businesses.
Historically
Underutilized businesses.
businesses.
For example, minority, woman-owned, those are the categories that you would have to meet to be a historic.
I think it might be,
Utilized.
it might be a certain section if you live in,
underutilized
it's no different, like if you live in a HUD zone, or if it's,
No.
there's some other,
No,
that's not.
it's a state designation and certification that businesses apply for based on the makeup of their business and demographics. You have to meet certain criteria to be designated as a historically underutilized business.
But part of that process could be like if you put your business in,
No,
I don't wanna say,
Oh.
I'm
it actually doesn't, no.
not gonna fight with legal. I'll ask
And
you.
you'll see a different point system, and so some of these will make guarantees that all their subcontractors will abide by that. So that'll also give them a different point system.
And then my last question, I'm sorry, it has to do with, I did see that our qualification, categories were different on this one than our last, RFQs. Okay, so who determines what the qualifying factors are gonna be on every RFQ?
Okay, because this was a CMAR, construction manager at risk.
Okay.
So this is a criteria required for that.
And that's set up somewhere standard, if you're going to be doing this particular type of RFQ, then these are the qualifications that you use?
Correct.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? No? So there's a motion. There's a motion and a second coming forward.
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Stroh,
Yes?
Ms. Zuniga,
Yes.
all in favor, motion passes.
I'll take this to next agenda item.
Item number 4, executive session. To consult with attorney under section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. 4A, discussion regarding potential acquisition of real property. Time is 6:51 p.m.
Thank you, Judge.
That's very close session, right?
Before closed session. What shall we say?
Time is 7:47. Item 5, new business. 5A, discussion and possible action regarding potential acquisition of real property.
Thank you, Board President Rodriguez, Dr. Galvez is here, and the remaining members of the board, Ms. Zuniga left during the closed session discussion, we still have a quorum. Based on the presentation from CBRE, along with Presidio and the other consultants, the board has been presented with a list of potential school sites and locations for district facilities. And at this time, the recommendation of the administration is to authorize or Dr. Galvez, the consultants, please, CBRE and Presidio, along with Board President Mr. Rodriguez, to issue and enter non-binding letters of intent for certain of the locations. There were various ones that we discussed in closed session. And based on the recommendations from CBRE and Presidio, those non-binding letters of intent will be issued. Obviously, any further discussion regarding price, final acquisition, terms of the acquisition will come back to the full board for review and consideration. The purpose of the letters of intent is to just get the contracts at least underway, so that we'll know what sites exactly are available and whether the base price for those sites are attractive to the board when you make your decisions on acquisition. So this time the recommendation is a motion to authorize Dr. Galvez, CBRE, Presidio, and their consultants, along with the board president, Mr. Rodriguez, to issue and enter non-binding letters of intent for the properties discussed in closed session based on the recommendation of the consulting professionals.
Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Can you please pull the board?
Mrs. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Strong?
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes.
I'll take us to the next item.
Item